In this video, I am going to provide you with my opinion and educated assumptions, let's say, about spray foam insulation. And I think we could be getting carried away with it, and we could be in for some big problems in the future if these problems aren't addressed as soon as possible. And I'm not about to suggest that I'm right on this, but you let me know. Feel free to leave a comment in the comment area. And am I right? Could this be a problem, or have they already solved it and there is absolutely no way that it could be a problem? So the first thing I'd like to do is just kind of go around, show you what some general construction would look like for a two-story home. This would be the second floor, and of course the roof, and just kind of a cutaway here, give you an idea of what it would look like without any sprayed foam insulation. Now here's what it would look like if you could spray the foam on perfectly. Check that out. Nice 90-degree angles, 2 inches all the way around everything. So this isn't going to happen, but it's the only way I could draw it. So let's work with what we have here. So this would be a crawl space or some type of a floor system that would have been sprayed with the insulation. And again, they might not spray the bottoms. Let me go back here. You might end up just spraying this area here, but the reason why I'm making this video is because I came across a video the other day and they had sprayed the entire roof system. They had it was trusses, and they had sprayed to where it would have looked something like this. The top cords on all of the trusses were sprayed with the foam. And in my opinion, it's going to create a couple of problems either way you look at it. So let's just go ahead and pretend like it's going to create some type of a cavity, something that could trap water. So again, we have something here. We slide our joists in. So let's look at it from two different points of view. Let's say that one of them would be that the foam can somehow allow water to seep or weep past it. And if that's the case, we could actually end up with water if it's a type of foam that does not allow water to penetrate. So if the foam allows water to flow through it, then this would solve the problem of trapping water in here, but could also create another problem from condensation. If you had lived in an area with a lot of humidity, a lot of moisture in the air, then now you've got the problem of moisture getting sucked through the foam or sucked into the foam, and then having moisture on the wood, surrounded by the wood for a long time. This would be kind of act like a sponge if the foam allowed moisture to flow through it or absorb into it. And if it didn't, and moisture couldn't absorb through it, and if that's the case, any water that somehow got into this area, into this cavity, could remain there for a long period of time. And under the right circumstances, accelerate the decomposition process, then that could be a problem, of course. Now, there is something that might be an advantage here for the foam. If the foam wraps all the way around the wood and it's sloping, this might allow water to flow out through the slope. But that's not going to be the case on the floor. Or I should say, it would the water could remain there for a longer period because it is going to be level or somewhat level. And of course, if everything is nice and level, everything is nice and flat, you're still going to have a problem with the plywood gaps. I can only imagine the amount of water that is going to be able to flow through these gaps, especially when the lumber manufacturers require 1/8 of an inch gap between the sheets. Now, on a floor, there's a good chance you're going to use adhesive, glue, on top of the joist. You're going to put it on to prevent the floor from squeaking. So this adhesive could actually create a waterproof barrier here. I don't know if it would. I'm just saying, under the right circumstances, you could end up with a waterproof joint here. And the tongue and groove used for the plywood, if you're going to use square edge plywood with blocks, you're going to actually have a bigger problem because the foam is not going to be in the area that's, if you're using 2x4 blocks for your plywood, it's not going to be, the foam will not be in the area that's going to be 3.5 inches wide now. Now you've got even more of a problem to where you could be susceptible to this situation here. Water actually not traveling past the foam because it's stuck to the bottom of the plywood, but it's going to be absorbing into the edges of the plywood. It's going to be absorbing into the top of the floor joists. If you have enough water over time, does it really matter if it rots out the entire section or just one small section that allows the joist to fall apart? A small section's usually enough, by the way. So for a floor, this could be your problem. The adhesive could help. The tongue and groove could reduce the amount of moisture, but this is not going to be the case on a roof where there is no adhesive and you still have the 1/8 of an inch gap. And all of the water can simply leak through these areas. So you're going to have water accumulating in all of the gaps if there is a leak. And I have seen this before. If you had a gap, let's say this piece of plywood went through and you had a gap here on this roof rafter, I've seen water come down, go around it here, come down and work its way down in between the floor sheathing. This is only going to be a bigger problem if you have created a water resistant or waterproof barrier like this. And if the water is looking for places to go, you might not even be able to find the roof leak. You might look at the edge of your roof rafter and see water leaking out or water leaking over here and think, oh, that's not a big deal. Well, it will be a big deal when the plywood starts to rot and your roof caves in. So I'm going to leave it at that. Hopefully this makes sense.